आत्मा त्वं गिरिजामतिः सहचराः प्राणाः शरीरं गृहम् पूजाते विषयोपभोगरचना निद्रा समाधिस्थितिः संचारः पदयो प्रदक्षिणविधि स्तोत्राणि सर्वा गिरो यद्यत् कर्म करोमि तत्तदखिलम् शम्भो तवाराधनम् सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की जय। We offer our pranams to the lotus feet of the Master, the Guru Principle, whose light shines through each one of us and whose light illumines our path in this life for a fulfilling soul journey. Many, many salutations to the Guru Principle. A very warm welcome once again to all of you. And for some reason, Rajan Bhai could not be here this Tuesday. So he took a break, and without disturbing the flow of what he has been teaching all of us, I thought it may be a good time for us to revisit a few things in this ongoing journey that we have here in our group, Tuesday gatherings. And as I said that each one must have a piece of paper and pen so that they can write their thoughts on it and save this writing for future consultation and referral. So let us prepare ourselves for this session. First, by doing a small practice of Anulom Vilom. So just check your nostrils, see which one is functioning, which one is flowing more. And do the Vishnu Mudra. You can close the left nostril with the ring finger and the right nostril with the thumb. So decide whichever nostril is flowing more. You start breathing in through that, and in this process of Anulom Vilom, we will not be holding the breath. So just breathe in to the count of 3 and breathe out to the count of 2. And we will do 11 such breaths. So breathe in, breathe out. Now breathe in from that nostril through which you breathed out, and breathe out from the other one. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. We did 2 cycles so far. Do 11 cycles. Keep counting yourself. Stop when you have completed 11 cycles. People in the gallery, yes. How do you feel right now? Would someone like to share? You can just unmute and go ahead. No? Nobody wants to share anything? Rakesh Rai? Please.
कुछ कूल लग रहा है.
Cool लग रहा है.
हाँ, मेरा राइट नॉस्ट्रल चल रहा था, तो लेफ्ट वाले राइट से शुरू किया.
But after 11, what is the mental state? How do you feel?
बड़ा स्टेबल फील हो रहा है. मतलब
Shilpa, you saying something?
Yeah.
Can. It's okay. If you don't want. Yes, Aarti, बोलिए.
I was saying, very calm.
बोलिए Aarti.
बहुत शांत लग रहा है.
शांत लग रहा है.
एकदम cool, शांत.
Cool. That is what happens. If we do it for a longer period of time, it will be very easy for us to go into meditation. But I just wanted you to get mentally more centered. So we did it for just 11 cycles. Now I have a question for you. And take a minute or two to think about it and write down whatever you want to say. Because we are going to go to the source. We have been together on this journey for some time now. So, what is the goal of your life? And if we want to be more focused, that we can ask ourselves that we are here, we have been drawn together here to this group because it provides a focus to some basic questions of life. So, what is the goal of sadhana, or whatever we are doing here? What is the goal? Just take a minute or two and write down. Now, if you have written down, then some of you can share what you have written.
Okay, sir.
Yes. Please go ahead, Jashankar ji. Just a moment, I will pin you. Yes, please go ahead.
To reach a stage where you are not perturbed by the events or the life situations that are around you, sir. To achieve that calmness and solace.
Wonderful. Very nice. So, where do you you want to reach a state where you are perfectly in harmony and balance, isn't it?
Like equanimity, sir.
Equanimity, yes. Wonderful. Anybody else?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
मैं भी बोलूंगा.
Just a minute. Who is this? Who said yes, sir? First.
Pradeep Sharma.
Pradeep ji, boliye.
Sir, it is.
Just let me pin you. Can't see. Yes, हाँ शर्मा जी बोलिए.
Yes, sir. These are not my words. They are the words of Rishi Prabhakar. The goal is to live and live peacefully.
Live and live, but you have adopted that goal, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have
That is
adopted that goal. Fair enough. Now, anybody else?
हाँ, मैं ये कह रहा था
हाँ,
कि my
आधा
goal is to get bliss, but beyond bliss, what is that? Because it is said several times that beyond bliss there is something.
Your goal is to. I don't get what you are saying. Your goal is to, you say your goal is to get bliss.
bliss. आप मतलब जिसको आप आत्मानंद कहिए, जो whatever you have in what is the terminology for that, सुख जिसे कहते हैं, जो कई शब्दों में कहा जाता है, जैसे उन्होंने कहा इकोनॉमिटी,
हाँ,
it can be
आप आनंद की तलाश कर रहे हैं. ठीक है, wonderful. And anybody else? हाँ आरती बोलिए.
To know myself, अपने आप को जानना चाहते सबसे.
अपने आप को जानना.
Yeah.
ठीक है. So all these answers are wonderful answers. To know oneself, to reach the space of equanimity, to have bliss, to live life peacefully and to live peacefully. All these are great
Happiness.
answers. Huh? Happiness. Yes.
Have lasting impact on happiness.
Happiness. So wonderful. All these answers
Sadhana
are.
should have lasting impact.
Beg your pardon. Is it Vatsla? Who is speaking?
Madhu.
हाँ मधु, एक मिनट. हाँ, अब बोलिए, क्या बोल रही
Life
थी?
goal should be, Hanji, my life goal should make me happy. It should be happiness, which should, it should have a lasting impact on me.
It should have a
last
lasting
for
impact
long.
on you.
Yes.
If you are happy, that itself is an impact, isn't it? What more can you want?
Yes.
So wonderful.
Yeah,
all
with
these
sadhana,
answers
it
are
should have.
wonderful. I'm sure everybody agrees with those answers. All of us are looking for that. Now, there is a
May I add
surprise.
something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Lakshmi.
Yes, Lakshmi.
There's in all of us seekers, I find there's a thirst for something, and we're questing for something. And with all these sessions that we are getting in our this particular seminars, a lot of questions are being answered, new pathways are being placed before us. And that somehow I've started feeling that an evolution is taking place, and very gradually. And this is the goal that I have been visualizing, that there has to be a change from whatever I am to somewhere far beyond on a spiritual
You
path.
are describing the journey, Lakshmi. What is the goal? Where do you think yourself going?
Yes, to go towards higher levels of spiritual attainment, and to be very specific, some of us have mentioned happiness and so on. Actually, I'm not able to crystallize that particular goal. That is why I'm talking of the path.
Totally unknown quantity.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That is also wonderful. But as long as you feel that evolution is happening and you are discovering something new, which is wonderful.
Exactly. Exactly, sir. Thank you.
Now, thank you everyone for your share. And what I wanted to bring home, this point was that every one of us, whoever has shared that this is what I am looking for, the fact of the matter is that you have experienced that in some measure or the other already. And every single answer, if it can be summed up, one word crops up: enlightenment. Isn't it? You agree or you don't agree?
Yes, at our own level, each one his own level of enlightenment.
We are all, so we are all seekers who are looking for enlightenment. Now, is enlightenment, we may think of enlightenment as being able to live peacefully and live peacefully. We may think of enlightenment as living in bliss. We may think of enlightenment as a continuous, gradual unfolding of awareness. We can define it whichever way we want. But the fact of the matter is that each one of us has experienced enlightenment. It is not such an elusive thing. It is not something that is not there at all. It is not some goal which we are chasing. We start chasing something only when we have experienced it. If you like kheer, rice pudding, you can like it only when you have tasted it once. In the same way, if you are searching for enlightenment, it is for the simple reason that you have already tasted it. And only because you have tasted it, you know how blissful it is or how wonderful it is. So there is this inner search that is taking us again and again or guiding us to find that space of being where one feels complete, one feels happy, one feels at peace, where everything falls in harmony. Now, the question is not about not having or not having enlightenment. We all have experienced it. Recall a time when you went out in nature, when the sun was setting, and this could not have been more beautiful. And your mind is stopped, and you just sat down. All thoughts disappeared. You're completely immersed in that situation. Think of a time when you met a lost friend, or when you were enjoying the best company you ever had, or when you are having a great time with your favorite person, your beloved. The mind stops in those moments. And that is a test of enlightenment. When you were reading the scriptures and you came across a teaching that really went piercing into your heart, and there was this aha moment, this wow moment, when you are completely drawn inside, that is a taste of enlightenment. When you made some discovery in your own life, when you did something which really pleased you, because you were acting out of a sense of expanded awareness. You had broken a certain limitation inside you. And that was a moment of enlightenment. So just contemplate these moments. Is there a person who has never had such a moment? And if we are coming here together, being together, and we are looking for something, are we not looking for those moments again and again through whatever practice we may be doing? So the pursuit that we have is not a pursuit of enlightenment, because that is something that we have already tasted. The pursuit we have is that of sustained enlightenment. Because we have these wow moments, these aha moments, these wonderful situations where we go within, we cross certain great barriers, and it life feels so worthwhile. Existence seems so wonderful. And then the mind comes awake. There are certain triggers from outside or certain fears, emotions, whatever, traumas, they come up. And that enlightenment, that moment of enlightenment is lost. So the pursuit of a seeker is not to get enlightenment, because each one of us has tasted it. The pursuit is how to get sustained enlightenment. And lot of people have this concept that, you will become enlightened, you will be detached from life, you will be in isolation, you will live in your own world. But fact of the matter is that this world is going to be there. And we have been placed here in a certain situation or in whatever role, that role is going to be there. So the challenge is, how do we remain in a state of enlightenment through whatever we are doing? So there comes the role of awareness. The enlightenment we have experienced, or the states of inner knowing that we have experienced, these have come through certain means. And when those means are not there, when those triggers are not there, it seems lost. So the idea is how to develop our awareness to that extent that this awareness is never lost. The true sense of being is never lost. And that is when there is action in awareness, and there is awareness in action. So you can take this as a mantra. The challenge is awareness in action and action in awareness. So we need to really improve there. We have to work upon ourselves to discover that unadulterated awareness, which is going to put us firmly in sustained enlightenment. So it may be worthwhile to examine a few things. What is holding us? What are your favorite challenges? I can see Shilpa laughing. All of us have those challenges. I am as much a struggler, I must confess. So what are our favorite challenges? One challenge I can think of is our belief system. Like I shared in one of the sessions that I was being posted out after my training, and one of my trainers, whom I respected very much, he said, God, you should never smile. You are holding a very delicate position. And if you smile at people very easily, then there will be these tax consultants who will take advantage of you and make money in your name. And I had forgotten to smile. And when in my Guru's ashram, I was given the seva of speaking, the first thing that one had to do was to get onto the podium and welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. I am so delighted to see you all. I just mouthed these words, but there was no delight, there was no joy, there was no welcome. So the belief system that I am so and so and I should not smile, it's a false belief system. So examine your own belief system. You can write down. What are the belief systems, common belief systems come across in spirituality? Or even I grew up in a family where I was told money is the root cause of all evil. So what happens? When you carry this belief system, you will never be able to attract money. Money is not bad. After all, in our tradition, Lakshmi is a goddess. We welcome her. She gives abundance. So when somebody is living with this kind of an awareness that money is the root cause of all evil, she is blocking abundance. She would never have a great life. And if we are looking at sustained enlightenment, all these blocks, all these systems, concepts, they will have to be broken. They must go. There is it's a favorite belief system prevalent here in India at this point of time, is that money and spirituality do not go hand in hand with each other. Does this sound familiar? So the thing is like this, that if we look at our own tradition in the good old days, in the days of the Upanishads, look at those rishis or the teachers who were there. They were all married. All these ashrams, the boys used to go and live there. They were taken care of. The kings used to support the gurus. And yet at some point of time when there was a change in the social pattern and this protection was not there, then this business of teaching went to the sannyasis. They were great. But because they were mostly sannyasis, this thought came that spirituality and money do not go hand in hand with each other. It's just a belief system. And to become enlightened, all belief systems must go. So you can just think about your own life and see what is the belief system that you have. What is it that your parents have told you, which you are holding so sacred and you are keeping it, and not realizing how it is affecting your life? What is it that your society tells you? There is a lot of judgment. In India, in our society, about people from different communities. There's a tendency to look down upon people from different other communities because everyone suffers from a sense of superiority. So these are belief systems which society has inculcated or given to us. We must examine them. And so many belief systems, when they come together, then they start programming the mind. And through so many past lives, we carry these belief systems. And they get embedded in our subconscious mind. So only when we are on the path to sustained enlightenment, we start exploring the subconscious level layers of our mind, and we begin to see what is stored there. And we need to work upon that. Forget the belief system. There are so many things that we have gathered ourselves. There are self-sabotaging patterns, like overeating. I am angry, or I feel depressed, and I just eat myself to death. not being able to exercise discipline, not taking care of health. Life is unfair to me. Why should I take care? This is a self-sabotaging pattern. Why should I exercise? I don't want to take care of this body. There are so many people, because they think that, spirituality and money do not go hand in hand with each other. They don't take care of their money management. And they lose money and they are faced with poverty. So a time which should be spent in sadhana, a time which should be enjoyed, that goes into feeling insecure about what will happen if one falls sick, how to manage the hospital bills, what will happen. So this is a self-sabotaging pattern. Our favorite tendencies of the ego-driven things that we get annoyed, we get hurt, all those things, emotional management, being jealous of one another. Something good happens to somebody and say, oh, why not me? It's so unfair. So these are some of the things that we need to look at. Does it sound familiar? So just take a few minutes, write down what you would like to work upon. Often there is a tendency, most of us are senior citizens here, retired people. There is a tendency to think that, oh, I have seen enough. What is there for me to know more? But the skills we have, the knowledge we have, is the only thing that we are going to carry forward. When we leave this body and go, any of the material possessions we will not be carrying with us. Whatever name, fame we have earned, that will just be here. So just think, what is it that you would like to carry with you when you breathe your last? When there are limiting identifications, I am not good enough, I cannot learn, I have no money. Just think of what is your limiting identification. There could be limiting identification in terms of sex. Somebody shared that, a young couple came for counseling, and the husband had just complained that the wife does not relish that physical intimacy. And in the course of the counseling, what came up was that the wife had grown up in a very conservative environment. Her mother had kept telling her repeatedly that you should never allow yourself to be touched by a person from the opposite sex. The mother had a good intention, perhaps, because she never wanted her daughter to be exposed to deviant behavior from others. But this got so deeply ingrained in the understanding of this lady that even when she got married, she was not willing to become intimate or to allow her husband to be intimate with her. This is a limiting belief system or identification, whatever you may call it. Our own identifications are limiting belief systems. We can find out. It is difficult to look within because it is painful. It is like performing a surgery on a bad boil that is full of pus. But that is what is needed, because each time you find one limiting trait, and all that you need is awareness. Awareness is like a laser beam. You direct your awareness on your limiting concepts, behaviors, and the torch of awareness will burn everything out. It may be painful in that moment, but it will release a lot of energy which is trapped there. And because your energy is fragmented, it is caught up here, there, and everywhere, it is not allowing you to grow. So one way to grow is to become aware of all these challenges that we have. And once we have removed these challenges, these limiting belief systems, the subconscious equations, the self-sabotaging patterns or identifications, and then comes something which is the hardest to remove. These are blind spots. Blind spots are something which we do not know. And because we do not know, it is like this, that I do not know that I do not know. Absolutely blind. But when the other things have been removed, then the blind spots will come. And then freedom from blind spots, when it happens, then the doorway to sustained enlightenment. But this is the homework which each one of us has to do. We normally put so much of premium on this practice, that practice, that practice. It's fine. Practice is important because it puts you in a higher energy mode, where it is easy to do this self-examination and to do this intricate surgery upon yourself. But just doing the practice and not doing this contemplation and not dealing with our own inner demons, that will only increase our journey unnecessarily. So we all have a choice. we want to be free here and now, then we have to do it. And if we don't do it, that also is fine. It's a matter of choice. Nobody is under compulsion to do it. So then the journey will be prolonged. As Shankaracharya says, you come here again and again and again. So it is something that each one of us as seekers have to look at carefully. What do you want? Do we want to be free in the shortest possible time or not? Most of the people say that, oh, enlightenment is something which is far off. No, it's already experienced. The question is, how do we sustain ourselves? We have the tools also. There are people who are doing the Kriya, Pranayam, meditation, chanting, Nam Jap, all those things people are doing, mind becomes still. But how to reach that situation that stillness becomes, it becomes to a state where it cannot be lost. And we find sustained enlightenment where there is awareness in action and action in awareness. So sustained enlightenment is about sustained work over a period of time. So whatever we have discussed, you can just take a minute or two. Want to write down something for yourself, you can do that. And it is all the more important for us senior citizens. For younger people like Amol Chaudhary and Shilpa, they have time on their side. We don't have time on our side. So it is important. And that brings us to another aspect of spiritual life. That it is important to live. I can tell you how my own belief system worked. In my family, my father and my elder brother, they died early. So when I was preparing for, after retirement, I was thinking of how would I manage funds for me, myself, and this, that. So I remember I always had this belief, oh, by the time I am 67, I would be gone. So I should not worry about what happens thereafter. But the fact of the matter is that because I had this subconscious equation, it brought a kind of challenge for me in monetary terms when I reached 66 or 67. So it is very important for each one of us to look at our own belief system, because whatever we believe in, that is what we are inviting. And if we need to have a different life, we need to change our belief system. That is why I thought I will just bring up some of these issues so that you can decide. And that brings us to another point, that it is important to live a healthy life. It is important to live long. So are we planning to live long? Because a person like me who had this thought, oh, 66, 67 is enough. So I knew that subconsciously, now I know that subconsciously I was making sure that by the time it is 66, 67, it is time to say goodbye to this world. So it is important to live life, because life is worth living. So how do we make life worth living? And how do we create a situation where we look forward to living, being here? So allow me to share something in this regard. Can you all see this? Yes. Can you read? These are 4 circles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can read it.
So what is the first circle? On top, it is said, what you love. So you can just write down what is it that you like, what is it that you love most. Something that you love doing, something which is your first love, whatever. Just write a few lines. It shouldn't be difficult. And then the second circle, which is in blue, it says what you are good at. So what you are good at is about your skills. What special skills that have you gathered in life? We all have been in active life. There are ladies who have been housewives. Each one of us has certain skills. It can be anything: reading, writing, telling stories, doing something, managing something, arranging a tour, cooking food, being a great host, anything. These are the skills we have. So think of the skills that you have, which you are especially good at, and just note down those skills. Now, what you love and what you are good at, if you put them together, that is your passion. So you can see this is passion. Now let us come to the third circle, the red circle. What you can be paid for. So what is it that makes you earn something? It can be a job. It can be something that you do. Something that you can monetize. So if you are good at something and you are getting paid for it, that becomes your profession. Common area between what you love and what you are good at is your passion. And what you are good at, or what you have become good at, and what you are getting paid for is your profession. So this is the third circle. This was the third circle. Now let us come to the fourth circle. what the world needs at this time or at any time. You and the world are not separate. You can contribute something to the world. So take some time and write or note down what the world needs and how you can contribute. It is very important because when you do something for the whole world and you love that, it becomes your mission. It becomes your mission in life. And if you are doing something for the whole world, something that the world needs, and you also start getting paid, it becomes your vocation. So, have you written it out? What you love, what you are good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs accordingly. Now, let us look at this very chart a little differently. It's the same chart. What you love, what you are good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. Now, if you look here, there are these triangular areas. Four areas. So we can look at this one area. What is here? You have some passion. What you love and what you are good at, it defines your passion. But passion by itself is not good enough. Because if you are doing something that you are passionate about, it gives you satisfaction. But if it is not paying you enough, it gives you a feeling of uselessness. You are doing something which is your hobby. Hobby may not contribute to your growth or your ability to contribute to this world. Then let us look at this triangle, the blue one, the dark blue one. Here you are getting paid for, and you are getting paid because you are good at something. But it is not your vocation, it is your profession. So because you keep getting the money, you are comfortable, but there is a feeling of emptiness. Now let us come to this triangular area. You are doing something what the world needs. It's part of your life mission. But it does not give you enough money. It does not pay you. So if you want to live long, if you want to really complete all your sadhana, all your challenges, you are living with an uncertainty. What happens if this happens to me? What will I do if this contingency arises? So there is excitement, but a sense of uncertainty, which is marring your experience. So now look at this place, this area in the center. Japanese is called Ikigai. What is your life purpose? What you are living for? So here there is complete satisfaction. You are doing what you love. You are utilizing all your skills, what you are good at. You are getting paid for it. And you are also doing what the world needs. So this is the Ikigai. And for a long life, a satisfying life, and a life where sustained enlightenment can be reached, the Ikigai must be. I know many of us are retired. Seems like a tall order when somebody says, you must find out an activity which is for the welfare of everybody and which also pays you. Many of us have been brought up with this concept that spirituality means you have to do everything free, all charity. But if we really want to live for 100 years or more, then each one of us have to find our Ikigai. And Ikigai, you look at the horizontal axis. If you see the horizontal axis here, it is the spiritual life. You are doing, you have developed certain skills, you are doing what the world needs. This is your spiritual axis. And you look at the vertical axis, what you love, and it also pays you. You do what you love and it also pays you. So this is your worldly axis, the material axis. And Ikigai is where all your spiritual well-being and material well-being, all the needs are met. Everything meets together. So as we contemplate how we need to change ourselves or purify ourselves, reach a state of sustained enlightenment, it may be worthwhile for each one of us to explore how can we discover the purpose. Why we should get up every morning and put our boots and go running out. We must be ready or looking forward to every single morning when it comes with joy, with determination, with great enthusiasm. That is Ikigai. And I'm sure this resonates with Master Uma. Master Uma, would you like to share something? I believe you are one who has really found the Ikigai.
It's a beautiful concept, sir. It's beautiful. You've really put it up so beautifully. I never looked at it from this perspective, and I did not really know what this Ikigai was. I had heard about it, but I'm so happy I could be here to, yeah. So beautiful concept. It's really nice. And yes, I wake up every morning and I really enjoy waking up. And, I know, yes, another big day in front of me and I need to touch more lives and have more happiness around me. So, yeah. So I think, yes, maybe I have. I'm trying. I'm still trying. I know there should be much more to be done. Yeah. Thank you.
And since Master Uma is here, I would like to share something that this is how this Ikigai concept came, is because different people have different life spans. Like in India, we have a life span of about 70 right now. In America, the average life span is 82. In Japan, it is 90 or more. There is this place called Okinawa where people live for, routinely they live for 100 years and more. There are several places on the earth where people routinely live for 100 years and more. And some of the scientists, great research was done, and some of the scientists really examined what was that special feature because of which these people were living for such a long life and a healthy life, fruitful life. And that is how this concept of Ikigai was developed. And it seems so alien. I mean, for somebody like me who always thought, oh, spirituality means being away from this world, you withdraw, money is not important. But if one has to really live long, money is needed. Resources are needed, sustenance is needed. So if we ignore that, then we are not being true to our spiritual pursuit. Because again, this is a false notion that spirituality is for free. Because everything requires an energy exchange. If somebody is really devoted to the master, then that person would go out and teach out of gratitude. So there is exchange in gratitude. So anything that is received, that something must be given in return. And the law of exchange really applies everywhere. So it is something that I thought would be appropriate for me to throw as a concept. So it is not a concept, it's a reality. And unless one really starts living that reality, the perfect harmony and balance between the spiritual goals and the material goals will not be found. And if only one goal is given undue importance, then perhaps living enlightenment will not become a reality. Because we must have sufficient time on this planet to go through the process or to find that perfect balance. And for that, we have to live here for sufficiently long time. Otherwise, the journey ends and then we come back and start again. We don't know what it would be like. So it's a chance, one chance here and now. That is something. And I found in Umaji this perfect example. Umaji, would you share something, a few minutes? Would you share how you just started and what you are doing?
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. And Gaur sir, what I really enjoyed was the last, when you connected the physical and the spiritual.
Yes.
It was a real aha moment for me. It was really beautiful. You know, what you love and what is paying you, and the physical life and the spiritual life. It was a beautiful comparison, and yeah, it really was wonderful. It was a good, big aha moment for me. Yes, many of you know me. I am Uma Rajan, and I'm a certified master teacher of the Tao Academy. Master Zhigang Shah is my spiritual master. I've had many spiritual masters, and it started with Swami Chinmayananda at the age of 5, when I started attending the Bal Vihar sessions. And from there, it's been a growth. Bhagavad Gita, Swami Dayananda, Swami Sukhabodhananda. And then I did a little bit of transcendental meditation, went into Reiki, and always a quest of what is the purpose? Why am I here? I was born physically challenged, so that was another one aspect which always felt, that what is it? Why? Why the challenge? Okay, karma. But then I was too small to have done karma in this lifetime. So that means there is something called a past lifetime. And connecting with Master Shah and his teachings of the Tao and spirituality and karma, it really opened my eyes to that you are here for a purpose. And the more we can serve humanity, bring a smile on a person's face. That is most important. If becoming a healer, and if you're, because pain is one thing we cannot take from somebody, we cannot experience it for somebody else. So if as a Tao Hands healer, I could bring a smile on a person's face when they are going through a little bit of pain, then I felt that would be the purpose of my life would have been accomplished. And that's how I came into the healing this thing and moved ahead, and with Master Shah's blessings have been chosen as a divine channel and given us, empowered us a lot, and he's still empowering us. And there was also this quest that to learn from a living master. Used to read a lot of books, but then Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, Vivekananda, you're learning from masters, but here I was meeting a master who was still, he himself is still learning, and as he learns, he is sharing. He does not keep anything to himself. The moment he receives something from the divine, immediately he shares it. So being with a living master was more, I would say I've been enjoying it more. And at present, he's having something called the Heart Sutra of Gautam Buddha, and it's a 7-day session. It's been quite taxing because the sessions start at 7:30 in the night and finish at 6 in the morning. And my sessions start here at 6 in the morning. So eventually it is, and today is the 6th day. Tonight would be the 7th day. So hopefully tomorrow things will become a little easy, but then the teachings are really, really profound, and it helps you to be awake because you can learn more and imbibe more from them. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I will be sharing those two diagrams. They are available actually on the net, and the concept has been crystallized in the book called Ikigai, which is also available. PDF version is available. You can read it yourself. But I just highlighted the basic concept and why it is important for us to find a balance or a harmony between our spiritual goals and material goals, because only then we can live life fully and hope to get enlightenment or sustained enlightenment in this life itself. So I think we can just meditate for a few minutes. So take a comfortable posture. Just become aware of how the body is holding itself. Let your spine grow naturally erect. So that you are in a state of alert awareness. Now begin to pay attention to your breath. You will notice that the breath becomes slow and steady. And just be comfortable. Allow your eyes remain open slightly. Because when the eyes close, then the mind has a tendency to run here and there. And become aware of awareness itself. You are not choosing any particular thing to be aware of, and you are not rejecting anything either. Just be aware of your field of awareness. It may span the body. You may become aware of the contact between different parts of the body and the place that you are sitting. You may become aware of the rustle of wind or air against your skin. You may be aware of the feel of clothes against your skin. Or you may be aware of the sounds from the fan in your room or from the AC or from any sound or any sound coming. Just be as it is. And remain in this state for some time. You can take a few deep breaths. And when you are ready, you may open your eyes very gently. I'll be putting those two diagrams that I showed on the group so that those who are interested, they can look at them from there. And anybody wants to ask a question or share something? You can unmute yourself and go ahead. Maybe it has raised more questions than provided answers. But that is the nature of spiritual pursuit. We all have to figure out what is preventing us from living the life of sustained enlightenment. And for that, we have to dig deep within ourselves. So if there are no questions, anybody? So then we close. And thank you everyone for being here. We'll close with the Shanti mantra. Om Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Asato ma sadgamaya Mrityorma Mritam gamaya. This prayer exhorts us to move from a life of being perishable to a state of immortality. And that immortality is of two types. One is discovered when we begin to experience our own true nature and know that it is not circumscribed by birth and death in one lifetime. It is eternal. And it has been following many births and deaths. The physical form. And the other immortality is when sustained enlightenment is brought to a fruition and one becomes liberated while living. May everyone attain that state of being a Jivan Mukta, liberated by living in this lifetime. May the Master's grace take us to that state. Thank you, everyone.